The United States federal government, along with Safe Connections, should establish a bilateral partnership with the government of Mexico against human trafficking. Our bodies will never be our own, as long as we can be sold, tortured, and disposed. This is a prime example of modern-day slavery. My life had never begun. Before it was time to come to an end, my body is no longer my own, but to countless men it belongs. I am a slave of sexual favors living in the 21st century. Why does the government continue to ignore me? Why does the government act as if I don't exist? Mexican sex trafficking has consigned almost 70,000 minors to a living hell. The problem is spreading. The CNN Freedom Project, blog.cnn.com. Joanne is only 16 and already has experienced a lifetime of horror and abuse. She is a former sex slave. It all started when she met a charming man. It was in a normal relationship with him for 3 months. She was treated like royalty and fell in love. A few months later, he asked her to elope and she agreed. We started living together in July, and by September, he was already forcing me to work as a prostitute. By then, it had become painfully clear that Joanne's boyfriend was in reality her captor, her pimp, who preyed on young, vulnerable teenagers whom he recruited with the purpose of forcing them into prostitution. Joanne says she was forced to have sex with dozens of men for as many as 18 hours a day. If she failed to make at least $600 a day, she was faced with severe punishment. He hit me multiple times with a phone cable. He would hit me in the legs and hands. One time he started beating me with a broomstick. He beat me so hard I couldn't get up afterwards. As many as 70,000 minors in Mexico are victims of human trafficking. We as privileged citizens of the United States cannot allow the bodies of humans to become disposable. They are not meant to be owned. This modern form of slavery affects millions of oppressed persons worldwide. We need to act both via legislation and through our speech act. TheGuardian.com, Global Development, Poverty Matters. What other word describes people who have been beaten mercilessly, shut indoors, made to work without payment, sexually abused and poorly treated, and threatened with more abuse against themselves and their families if they attempted to leave? This is not just violence or exploitation. What describes a situation is a situation in which mother has no right over a child, or father is forced to put down his own life and those of his family as collateral, working for nothing to try to repay a debt that will never go away. These are forms of slavery that exist today. Millions of people live in some form of enslavement. Collective silence and refusal to acknowledge its existence, that it thrives on and transforms itself to a new form years after years. By not speaking, we're hoping to perpetuate the industry that strips millions of their humanity and rights. Slavery is flourishing, extending its tentacles into every corner of the planet. This is something that touches all of our lives. It is almost impossible not to complicate. We all enjoy the cheap fruits of enslavement while telling ourselves that the exploitation happens over there and it's nothing to do with our own country's community. Sex trafficking is starting to receive visibility as a horrendous human rights abuse is yet more worldwide. A worldwide form of slavery, and trafficking continues to go unreported and ignored. Trafficking networks can be eliminated. Plan solves. Terrorists are very resilient, so these disruptions will cause temporary setbacks, but continuous disruptions creates pressure by forcing networks to increase their spending when operating and setting up costs at different locations. Disruptions also complicates communications within the networks, which causes turmoil within. Continual pressure on the network is disruptive. These pressures could cause the organization to implode. If the United States federal government and the charitable organizations such as Safe Connections both make efforts to support the policy of stopping sex trafficking in the United States and Mexico, we as privileged Americans must step in when we see that there is a wrong going on in the world. We have a moral obligation as people to stop the modern-day slavery that has come in many forms, as well as the dominance that continues to persist in our everyday lives. This is an opportunity for world change.